My girlfriend, well, ex-girlfriend now, let's call her Brittany, and I'd been together for 2 years. She's 25 and I'm 27, male. When we first started dating, I thought she was perfect. Brittany's the kind of girl who'd turn heads anywhere, drop-dead gorgeous, super confident, and always had that vibe like she was the center of attention. I was proud to call her mine. About a year ago, we decided to move in together. Well, technically, she moved into my house since I own it. Brittany's been finishing her degree and working part-time, so I've been the one paying all the bills, rent, utilities, groceries, even her car insurance. I didn't mind at first. I saw it as an investment in our future. Like I figured I was helping her out so she could focus on her studies, and we'd build a life together. For a while, it felt like a dream. Brittany was sweet, funny, and full of energy. She made me feel like the luckiest guy in the world. I was pulling long hours at work, but it didn't bother me. I loved coming home to her, and she always had this way of lighting up the room. Well, in the beginning at least. The first 6 months of living together were great. We spent our weekends exploring new places, binge-watching shows, and just enjoying each other's company. But then, slowly, things started changing. Brittany became more distant. It wasn't super obvious at first, just little things, like how she'd stop waiting for me to eat dinner, or how she'd scroll on her phone instead of talking to me. Then she started going out more. She'd tell me she was meeting friends, and I didn't think much of it. I mean, she's allowed to have her own life, right? But it started becoming a regular thing. Weekends, weeknights, random evenings. I'd get home from work expecting to spend time with her, only to find an empty house. When she did come home, she was either on her phone or heading straight to bed. No "how was your day," no hugs, nothing. I tried to bring it up once. I told her I felt like we weren't spending as much time together anymore, and she just brushed it off with a casual, "I just need some me time." You're overthinking it. Overthinking? I was putting so much effort into this relationship, trying to make things work, and somehow I was the one at fault for wanting to feel connected. It didn't sit right with me, but I didn't want to come across as clingy or controlling, so I let it go. Things only got worse. I'd wake up on Saturdays to find her already gone. She'd text me hours later, saying she was hanging with the girls or something vague like that. I stopped asking for details because it felt like every time I did, she'd act like I was interrogating her. So I kept quiet, hoping it was just a phase and that things would go back to how they used to be. But honestly, it was starting to get to me. I felt like a roommate instead of her boyfriend. I was doing everything to make sure she was comfortable, paying all the bills, making sure she didn't have to stress about money. And she couldn't even bother to spend time with me. It wasn't even about the money, it was about the lack of effort. I remember this one night in particular. I came home after a 12-hour shift, exhausted. The house was dark, no sign of Brittany. I texted her, asking where she was, and she replied an hour later, saying, "Just out, don't wait up." That was it, no explanation or apology. I sat there on the couch, staring at the message, and I felt this knot in my stomach. Like, what was I even doing this for? I tried telling myself that she was just stressed with school, or that she needed some freedom, but deep down, I knew something was off. I started feeling like I was putting in all the effort while she was just taking it for granted. And the thing is, I loved Brittany. I really did. She wasn't just some girlfriend to me, she was someone I saw a future with. I wanted to believe that we were building something together, but the more time passed, the more I realized it felt like I was the only one building. She was just sitting on the sidelines, reaping the benefits. At this point, I started second-guessing everything. Was I being too nice? Was I enabling her behavior by doing too much? I didn't want to feel this way, but I couldn't help it. Every time I came home to an empty house or a distracted girlfriend, it felt like a slap in the face, like I was giving her everything, and in return, I was getting the bare minimum. I talked to a couple of my friends about it, and they told me I needed to set boundaries. One of them even joked that I was basically her sugar daddy without the sugar. I laughed it off at the time, but it stung because it felt true. I didn't want to believe that Brittany was just using me, but the signs were starting to add up. At this point, I knew I needed to have a serious talk with her. I wanted to figure out if we were still on the same page, or if I was just fooling myself. I told myself I'd bring it up the next time we had a quiet moment together, if we ever had one again. That night, I asked myself if Brittany was really the person I thought she was, or if I'd just been blinded by how much I wanted her to be. That question was stuck in my head. The next few days, I was so caught up in figuring out how to bring it up without sounding like I was accusing her of something. I didn't want to come off as insecure or controlling, I just wanted answers. But Brittany beat me to it in the worst way possible. One night, she actually stayed home for once. I thought, finally, maybe we can have a normal evening together. We ordered takeout, sat on the couch, and started talking about random stuff. It felt nice, like old times, and for a second, I thought maybe things were turning around. At some point, the conversation shifted to relationships and loyalty. I don't even remember how we got there, but I mentioned how important it was to me to feel like we were on the same team. Brittany kind of laughed and gave me this look, like I just said something dumb. Then she hit me with it. You know, you're pretty replaceable. There are tons of guys who'd love to be with me. I swear I thought I misheard her at first. I literally blinked and asked, what? She just repeated it, this time with a little smirk, like it was the funniest thing ever. Don't get so serious, she added. You know I'm joking. Except, it didn't feel like a joke. Not even close. I just stared at her for a moment, trying to figure out if she realized how messed up that was to say, but she didn't. She just kept scrolling on her phone, like she hadn't just shattered whatever was left of my confidence in this relationship. I didn't want to blow up, so I kept calm. I asked, is that how you really feel? She rolled her eyes and said, oh my God, you're being so dramatic. Of course not. But it's true. Guys hit on me all the time. It's not my fault you can't handle that. I was floored. Not only did she double down, but she made it seem like I was the problem for being upset about it. And the worst part? She didn't even apologize. She just acted like it was no big deal, like I was overreacting. The rest of the night was awkward. I didn't say much, and neither did she. She went to bed early, probably annoyed that I wasn't laughing along with her. Meanwhile, I sat there on the couch, replaying the whole thing in my head. I couldn't shake the feeling that she really believed what she said, that I was just another guy in a long line of options for her. The next day, I tried to act normal. I wanted to see if she'd bring it up, maybe apologize or at least acknowledge it, but nope. She acted like everything was fine. She even kissed me on the cheek before heading out to meet her friends, like nothing had happened. That's when it really hit me. She didn't care at all. She didn't care how her words made me feel, and she definitely didn't care about how one-sided everything had become. I was just there, convenient, replaceable. I started noticing other things after that, little comments she'd make about how other guys looked at her, or how her friends joked about her being the hot one in our relationship. I'd always brushed it off before, but now it felt different. It felt like she was testing me, seeing how much I'd let slide. The thing is, I never saw myself as the jealous type. I've always believed that if you trust your partner, there's no need to stress about stuff like that. But this wasn't about trust anymore, it was about respect, and Brittany didn't respect me, plain and simple. Over the next few days I started pulling back. I stopped texting her during the day to check in. I stopped asking her how her classes were going, or if she needed anything. I figured, why bother? If she thought I was so replaceable, then what was the point of putting in all this effort? But at the same time, I wasn't ready to end things just yet. I kept telling myself that maybe I was reading too much into it, maybe she really was joking, and I was just blowing it out of proportion. I mean, 2 years is a long time to throw away over one comment, right? I tried to convince myself of that, but deep down I knew it wasn't just one comment. It was everything, the distance, the entitlement, the lack of effort. That comment was just the cherry on top of a cake that had been rotting for months. One night, I was sitting in the living room scrolling through my phone when Brittany walked in. She barely looked at me before heading straight to the bedroom. I called out to her, "Hey, do you have a minute? I want to talk." She groaned, like I just asked her to move a mountain. "What?" she said. I hesitated for a second, trying to find the right words. "Do you even want to be in this relationship anymore?" I asked. She looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "What kind of question is that? Of course I do. Why wouldn't I?" I wanted to say because you think I'm disposable, but instead I just nodded and said, "I don't know. I feel like we're not on the same page." She sighed and rolled her eyes. "You're overthinking again. Can we not do this right now? I'm tired." That was it. She didn't even care enough to have the conversation. I watched her walk into the bedroom and close the door, and I realized I couldn't keep doing this. Something had to change, and soon, because I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. But before I could even figure out how to deal with Brittany, life decided to deal with me first. A couple of days after our half-hearted conversation, I got a call from one of her friends. Let's call her Melissa. Now, Melissa and Brittany were close. Not best friends, but definitely tight enough that her calling me abruptly was unexpected. I almost didn't answer because, let's be real, what could Melissa possibly have to say to me? I picked up anyway. "Hey, what's up?" I asked, trying to sound casual, even though my stomach was already doing flips. Melissa didn't waste any time. "Listen, I don't know if I should even be telling you this, but I feel like you deserve to know," she started. That's when I knew this wasn't going to be a friendly chat. I braced myself as she continued. "Brittany's been seeing other people, like not just one person, but multiple guys. And it's been going on for a while. For a solid 10 seconds, I just sat there in stunned silence, gripping my phone like it was the only thing keeping me upright. "Are you sure?" I finally managed to choke out. Melissa sighed. "I'm sure. I didn't want to get involved, but we had a fight the other day, and some things came out. She's been bragging about it, like it's no big deal. She even called you her backup plan. Backup plan. I'd been putting everything I had into this relationship, and to Brittany, I was just her safety net, someone to fall back on while she did whatever the hell she wanted. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, not accusing, but genuinely curious. Melissa hesitated for a moment. Honestly, because I think it's messed up. You're a good guy, and you don't deserve to be treated like this. I'd want someone to tell me if I were in your shoes. And now I know how girls act when they have a fight together. Melissa and Brittany had a rocky history, even when they pretended to be friends. Melissa had always seemed a little too eager to criticize Brittany behind her back, and it wasn't hard to imagine she'd jump at an opportunity to tear her down. There was a chance she was exaggerating or even outright lying just to see Brittany crash and burn. Still, the timing made me uneasy. Brittany had been throwing up red flags for months, and this felt like the missing puzzle piece that tied it all together. I couldn't just dismiss it outright. I needed to figure out the truth on my own. Over the next few days, I started piecing things together without being obvious. I knew confronting Brittany without solid proof wouldn't get me anywhere. She'd deny everything or twist it around to make me the bad guy. So, I decided to use her patterns and habits against her. One thing about Brittany was that she was a creature of routine, especially when it came to her nights out. She'd always say she was with her friends, but she was vague about details. No specifics on where they'd go or who she'd be with. So, the next time she said she was heading out, I casually asked her which friend she was meeting. "Oh, just Ashley," she replied quickly, barely looking at me as she grabbed her keys. I waited about an hour, then I called Ashley. Not to accuse or even hint at anything, I just played it cool. "Hey Ashley," I said, keeping my tone friendly. "Brittany said she was hanging out with you tonight. It seems her phone died and I can't reach her. I just wanted to double check if you know what time she'll be home." Ashley hesitated. There was a long pause, and then she said, She's not with me tonight. I haven't seen her in a while, actually." Her voice sounded genuinely confused. That was my first confirmation. I didn't react on the phone. "Oh, no worries," I said casually, covering my tracks. "Maybe I misunderstood. Thanks anyway." I hung up and started thinking, if she wasn't with Ashley, who was she with? And more importantly, where was she? That's when I remembered that Brittany had a favorite hangout spot she never mentioned anymore. A low-key cafe bar she used to love when we first started dating. It was the kind of place where people went to have quiet conversations, not wild nights out. She hadn't brought it up in months, but I had a hunch it was still part of her routine. I drove over there, parking a few blocks away so she wouldn't spot my car. My heart was racing, though I tried to keep my thoughts in check. This was just a hunch, I told myself, a way to rule things out, or so I hoped. As I approached the cafe bar, part of me was still holding on to the slim hope that maybe Melissa had exaggerated, that maybe Brittany wasn't capable of what I was about to uncover. Sure enough, there she was, sitting at a table by the window, but not alone. My stomach dropped. She was laughing and leaning in close to some guy I'd never seen before. The way her eyes lit up, the casual way she touched his arm, the way he leaned toward her, it was all too intimate. They weren't just friends. I could feel the weight of betrayal settle in my chest, heavy and cold. Everything I had tried to ignore, to rationalize, suddenly became impossible to deny. I didn't storm in or cause a scene, although I wanted to, but I stayed calm, even though my hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone. I took a picture from the sidewalk, just enough to document what I needed without drawing attention. As I snapped the photo, all I could feel was anger, humiliation, and some sense of validation. All those doubts I'd been suppressing, all those red flags I'd tried to explain away, they were right there in front of me, staring back at me through the glass. She'd played me, plain and simple. Worse, she'd assumed I was too blind or too trusting to ever figure it out. But the truth was out now, and I wasn't about to let her get away with it. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of clarity. I wasn't even angry, not at first. I was just done. There was no salvaging this, no fixing what had been broken. Brittany had made her choices, and now it was time for me to make mine, to show her which one of us was replaceable. I didn't waste any time. The moment I decided I was done, I got to work. First, I canceled the auto-pay for her car insurance. She had relied on me to handle it for months, but that ship had sailed. If she wanted the luxury of driving around town, she could figure out how to pay for it herself. Then, I opened the fridge. It was stocked with the snacks she loved, specialty yogurts, her favorite drinks, the fancy cheese she insisted on but never finished. All of it, gone. I wasn't going to keep catering to someone who had been laughing behind my back while she enjoyed the comfort I provided. Next, I told her straight up that she needed to start covering her share of the utilities, water, electricity, internet, all of it. I wasn't running a free ride program anymore. She looked at me so confused when I brought it up, but I stayed calm. "You're an adult," I told her. "It's time you start acting like one." This wasn't about being petty, it was about drawing a line. I wasn't going to be her safety net anymore, and I wanted her to feel it. If she had been treating me like her backup plan this entire time, she was about to get a reality check. When Brittany noticed the changes, she didn't waste any time confronting me. She stormed into the living room one evening, clutching a letter from her insurance provider. "Why didn't the insurance go through this month?" she snapped, waving the paper like it was a declaration of war. I barely glanced up from my seat. "Because I'm not paying for it anymore," I said simply. Her eyes narrowed, her tone turning sharper. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you're an adult, Brittany." "You can figure it out," I replied, my voice steady and cold. I wanted her to feel the weight of her own actions without me having to spell it out. She wasn't done, of course. "What's your problem lately?" she fired back, her voice rising. "You've been acting weird, and now this? Are you seriously trying to punish me for something?" I couldn't help but let out a short, bitter laugh. The irony of her accusation was almost comical. "Punish you?" I said, locking eyes with her. "Brittany, you've been running around behind my back while I've been holding everything down. Do you really think I wouldn't find out?" The color drained from her cheeks. For a moment, she looked like she might deny it, but then she straightened up, folding her arms defensively. "Who told you that?" she asked, her tone sharp but betraying a hint of panic. I leaned back in my chair, keeping my voice even. "No one told me. I saw you." Reaching into my pocket, I pulled out my phone and opened the photo I'd taken at the cafe. There she was, sitting with some guy, laughing like they were the happiest couple in the world. "Recognize this?" I asked, my tone cutting through the silence like a knife. I didn't give her a chance to spin a lie. "So, tell me, Brittany," I continued, my voice unwavering, "how many other guys who've been hitting on you are you dating now? Because clearly, you've moved on while still living under my roof." Her defensiveness quickly turned into rage. "You don't understand. I deserve attention. You've been so busy with work that I felt like I wasn't even in a relationship anymore." I stood up, my eyes narrowing as I looked down at her. "You made a mistake, Brittany," I said. "You took me for granted. You thought I'd stick around no matter how little you respected me. But let me make one thing clear, I'm not your safety net. You lost that the moment you decided I was replaceable." She glared at me, her voice rising as she shouted, "You're being dramatic. Every girl gets hit on. It doesn't mean anything. Maybe if you'd paid more attention to me, I wouldn't have felt the need to go out so much." Her words were like gasoline on a fire. "Don't put this on me," I said coldly. "You had a choice. You could have talked to me. Instead, you decided to cheat on me. That's on you, not me." Brittany's face crumpled, but I didn't let up. "You wanted to know what my problem is? It's you, Brittany, and now I'm done." She started to speak, but I cut her off. "Cut the crap and pack your things. Find somewhere else to stay. This isn't your home anymore." The words hung in the air for a moment, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was trying to figure out how to spin this, how to manipulate the situation in her favor, but for once, I wasn't giving her the chance. "You can't just kick me out," Brittany cried, her voice shaking as tears streamed down her face. "I don't have anywhere to go. Please don't do this. I'll fix things, I promise." I locked eyes with her as she stood there trembling. "Brittany," I said, my tone steady, "I've worked hard to build a stable life for us. Turns out, you don't deserve it. Remember what you said? That there were plenty of guys who'd love to be with you? Well, maybe it's time you find one of them, because I'm done." Her tears turned into full-on sobbing as she dropped to her knees. "I didn't mean it," she wailed, clutching at her chest. "I wasn't thinking. I was just joking. Please don't throw me out. I'll change. I'll do anything." I shook my head, my voice unwavering. "You made your choices, Brittany. You disrespected me, lied to me, and treated me like an option. Now you're dealing with the consequences of that. It's not my job to save you anymore." For a moment I saw her desperation turn to anger. "You'll regret this," she spat, rising shakily to her feet. "You'll regret losing a girl like me. You'll never find anyone better." I couldn't help it. I laughed, a short, sharp laugh that made her flinch. "Better than you, Brittany? You're replaceable. You've proven that. Goodbye." She stood there, stunned, her mouth opening and closing like she wanted to say more, but no words came out. Finally, she grabbed her things and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. As the silence settled over the house, I felt no regret, no second-guessing, just relief. I wasn't going to let her guilt or arrogance hold me back any longer. In the days that followed, I felt a strange mix of emotions. How could I have let it get this far? How had I not seen the signs sooner? But of course, Brittany wasn't going to let things end quietly. Within days, I started hearing from mutual friends. Apparently, she'd been telling everyone that I was controlling and emotionally abusive. She claimed I had kicked her out for no reason and that I'd never let her have any freedom. I couldn't believe it. She was rewriting the entire relationship. making herself out to be the victim while painting me as some kind of monster. At first it pissed me off. I wanted to defend myself, to set the record straight. But then I realized something. The people who truly knew me wouldn't buy her lies. They'd seen how much I had done for her and how one-sided our relationship had become. Anyone who believed her wasn't someone I needed in my life anyway. A few weeks later, I ran into a mutual friend at a coffee shop who had some news about Brittany. Apparently, she had moved on and started dating some rich guy. At first, I just shrugged it off. It wasn't my business anymore. But then the friend smirked and added, "Well, it didn't last 2 weeks. Turns out, he dumped her as soon as he found out she'd been living with you rent-free and you were paying for her school tuition. Guess he wasn't thrilled about being her next ATM." I couldn't help but chuckle. Classic Brittany, always looking for an upgrade, thinking she's irreplaceable. Honestly, I didn't feel bad for her. She made her choices, and now she was dealing with the consequences. Now, the only thing on my mind is hoping she wouldn't try to come crawling back, bringing more trouble into my life. Thanks for reading, everyone. If anything new happens, I'll let you know, but for now, I'm just happy to leave this chapter behind. Onward and upward. Final update. Hey folks, I thought I'd give you all an update on how things have been since Brittany left. Here's the thing. Brittany never realized she thought she was the prize. But she wasn't. A month after she left, I started seeing someone else. Someone who actually treated me with respect and kindness. Let's call her Rachel. Rachel was everything Brittany wasn't. Supportive, thoughtful, and real. She didn't just take from me. She actually cared about giving back to the relationship. For the first time in a long time, I felt valued. Word got around fast, and it didn't take long for Brittany to find out. I don't know how she found out exactly. Maybe a mutual friend, maybe social media. But when she did, she lost it. According to a few people we both knew, she was completely devastated. Suddenly, the reality that I'd moved on while no one wanted her, she wasn't handling it well. At first, she tried subtle things after that guy dumped her, sending me random texts asking to talk and even showing up at places she knew I might be. I ignored all of it. I was over her, and Rachel deserved my full attention. But then Brittany decided to escalate things in the most dramatic way possible. It all started one evening when I heard shouting outside my house. At first, I thought it was just noise from the street, but then I recognized Brittany's voice. I walked to the door, opened it, and there she was, standing on the porch with 4 of her friends. They were all ganging up on me, like I was a criminal. Their voices were loud, and their energy was chaotic. "You're unbelievable," one of her friends yelled, pointing at me like I was on trial. "You think you can just toss her aside like she's nothing? You're heartless," Brittany added, tears streaming down her face. She looked genuinely distraught, but I wasn't falling for it. "After everything we've been through, you're just done with me?" "Just like that," she said. I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms, calm, controlled, unmoved. "What do you want, Brittany?" I asked, keeping my tone firm and ignoring the comments flying from her entourage. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "I came here to tell you something important, but you won't even talk to me. You just slammed the door on me, on us." Her friends nodded, giving her moral support like they were her backup singers. One of them chimed in, "You don't even know what she's been dealing with. She deserves better than this." "Are you done?" I asked, my voice steady, keeping my eyes locked on Brittany. "Because I'm not interested in theatrics. If you have something to say, say it." Brittany's lip trembled as she looked at her friends for backup, then back at me. She finally blurted it out, "I'm pregnant. It's yours." The porch fell silent. Her friends stared at me, clearly expecting some big reaction, but I didn't flinch. I just stood there, watching her, calm and collected. "Is that so?" I said finally, raising an eyebrow. "And you came here with your cheerleading squad to tell me this because—" She sniffled. "I didn't know how to tell you," she said. "I've been scared, and I don't know what to do." "All right," I said, nodding slowly. "Let's cut the drama. If you're pregnant, you'll have no problem proving it. Show me a test, a doctor's note, something." Her friends exchanged nervous glances before one of them jumped in. "She just found out. She hasn't had time to go to the doctor yet. Are you that stupid?" I turned my gaze back to Brittany. "Is that true?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Because if it is, we'll handle it the right way. But if it's not true, and you're lying to me, this conversation ends now." For a split second, her face twisted with panic before she quickly tried to mask it. "Why can't you just trust me?" she asked, her voice rising. "After everything we've been through, why would I lie about something like this?" "I don't trust you because you've given me every reason not to," I replied, my voice cold but steady. "So, again, prove it. If you're telling the truth, we'll deal with it." But I'm not entertaining empty words. Her friends started shouting again, throwing insults, but I tuned them out. My eyes stayed on Brittany, and it didn't take long for her to look away. That split second of hesitation told me everything I needed to know. The group eventually stormed off, cursing me under their breath and calling me every name they could think of. Brittany's performance, though convincing at first, had fallen apart. I didn't let it shake me, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't leave me uneasy. What if there was some truth to it? A few days later, the truth came out. Melissa, the same person who had tipped me off about Brittany's behavior, reached out again. She seemed to be following our breakup chaos. She assured me that Brittany wasn't pregnant and had made the whole thing up. Brittany had been spiraling since she found out I'd moved on, and the fake pregnancy was her last-ditch attempt to trap me into taking her back. Honestly, it wasn't shocking, just disgusting. I blocked Brittany on everything immediately. Whatever lies she was spreading or plans she had weren't my problem anymore. Meanwhile, I kept moving forward with Rachel, someone who actually valued me. Brittany thought she was irreplaceable, but she was the one who was easily replaced. As for her, she'd been couch surfing and had dropped out of school after her parents refused to support her. I didn't care anyway. She got what she deserved for taking everything she had for granted.